Welcome to the first episode of the Huddle. We have Eli, Jesse, and I'm Caleb. Today we're going into some of the herps of the Western Pennsylvania Appalachian Plateau here. So I think for snakes, especially venomous snakes, the timber rattlesnake really catches my attention when we're talking about the herps of Pennsylvania. I'll say they're good for population control. They're least concerned. We don't have to worry about them getting extirpated or anything. And I don't know, just out of all the venomous snakes we have here, it just catches the eye of most people.
Timber rattlesnake got me out of work once on my internship. They didn't want the interns to get bit. It was in the end the right call. Controversial at the time, you got to get those trees down. But I do say the timber rattlesnake, it has a place in my heart because of that day. Good memories of that.
I can see that.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah.
So personally, I like the Northern Copperhead. That's kind of my snake, dude.
I knew you would say that.
I know you think that I would say that, but hear me out here. Northern Copperhead, dude, they look super cool. They do actually have reportedly been capable of parthenogenesis, the females,
Now, can you
which
say
is
that?
pretty rad.
Now, I know what that means, but could you explain it for our viewers?
Okay, so for our viewers, parthenogenesis is like when a single individual, typically a female, is able to like asexually reproduce with itself, which is pretty rad, if you ask me.
Like I said, I knew that, but thank you for clarifying.
Let me cut you off there though about, you said they look cool. But a big drawback for the copperheads is that they look like the northern water snakes. So people confuse them and they get killed in numbers every year.
Yeah, I'll get you.
Northern water
Yeah,
snakes.
that one.
Northern water snakes do kind of suck. I met a guy that met a northern water snake one time. Wasn't a good time. His foot swelled up.
Really?
Yeah.
Infection.
They got bacteria, like children.
Right.
Want to take a quick second. The Hot Cuddle is brought to you by Celsius. 2 of the 3 of us got shipments. Jesse called them something on Twitter and he didn't get one, so he's just
I've been canceled from the
We're
site
not
formerly
sponsored.
known as Twitter,
We're not
now known
sponsored.
as X.
Yeah, Elon Musk, come see me anytime. So I think we're talking, you're talking about all snakes that people know about. But the Massasauga rattlesnake, which I thought was part of Canada, people don't really know about it. And it's a shame because it's like, it's not dying, but like people don't know about it. It's endangered in PA. If we're going to talk about that. It's found in 4 sites. One of them's near Slippery Rock, which, I gotta say about Slippery Rock. But, it likes wet prairies and meadows. And the interesting about it is that we like crayfish here in PA. You're from Alabama. You love crayfish.
Whoa. I was born and raised in Pennsylvania. I don't know what you're talking about.
Did not sell it with that way you talk there. But they are developed with crayfish burrows because they actually share the burrows whenever they have to hibernate over the winter. And because there's so much development around the areas, Butler County and the 3 other counties they're found, it's a concern because not only with the water table lowering, but just losing the meadows because there's only certain parts we find those meadows. We might not see the Massasauga rattlesnake. And the craziest thing is that I've seen the timber rattlesnake and the Massasauga rattlesnake. The one that lives where I live, I've never seen, and it's that reason I don't like it because it has beef with me for some reason, and I'm not a fan of it.
Now here's a question for you. You say they share burrows with crayfish. Is that more like native crayfish, or is that more of like a rustic crayfish, an invasive that they share with?
I do not think it's the metal cap from Mario. No, they're a regular crayfish. There's no rust or metal on them at all. It's a regular crayfish. That's actually a special type of burrowing crayfish, to my belief. But we're talking about herps here. We're not talking about.
Yeah, we're getting a little off topic here.
Yeah.
Let's reel this back a little bit.
Little
We'll
mud
talk
bugs.
about our favorite non-venomous snakes. We'll switch it up a little bit.
That's an easy pick for me. It's got to be the eastern milk snake.
Boring pick.
Milk snakes are not a very boring pick. They have a very diverse diet. They can eat fish, insects.
It's
they
named
eat
after
amphibians.
milk.
Well, yeah, it is named after milk. It came from the concept that they would drink from the udders of a cow.
They don't do that.
That's not
That's
true.
not what.
That's
What
not
do you
true.
mean? It's
That's
a
not true.
scientific fact.
That's absolutely
If
not
they'd
true.
be sucking on cows, then they'd be my favorite snake, and that's the reason why they're not.
Have you never been around them? I've seen it.
I've never
personally.
seen a cow.
Forget that. I'm gonna go with the eastern rat snake for mine. Eastern rat snake, totally rad, really good for farmers. They love to use these things in their barns. They kill so many snakes. Interesting fact, they used to be called Elafa, was their genus name.
I'm a laugher.
They switched that up, they're Pantherophis now.
You would like a good rat snake, wouldn't you, Jesse?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would. Yeah, I would.
Looking
Yeah, I
like,
would, yeah.
looking like
Yeah.
an undercover cop over there.
Can't believe it.
Yeah. How about that?
What about you, Eli?
Yeah.
Talking all this trash. What's your snake?
Yeah.
My snake, I'm a big fan of Lord. I am Lord who sang Royals, so I'm going with the queen snake. The queen snake. It's a fully aquatic snake, which I think is pretty BA, and I'm not talking about a Bachelor of Arts. But it's called a queen because she is one. And one of their favorite things is they wait for the crayfish to molt, actually. They're one of their favorite foods as a delicacy. They wait for the freshly molted crayfish, and that's what they eat a lot of. And, like, the things that eat them are really things you'd expect, like herons, minks, raccoons, things you find around the water. But the problem is that it's so adapted to its environment, right? It's such a great fit. But you mess with the streams and you put the silt in there, it's a big problem, everything we do with these streams. Just leave the streams alone. And let me tell you, the queen needs her palace.
Right. Keeping up with all these reptiles, I mean, the eastern fence lizard is going to be my favorite. I know some people have their reservations about them, and there's not a lot of research done about them, but one of my favorite points is that they're very favored by birds as prey, and also cats. Keep them cats indoors, people. What are they doing out there?
Bob Barker.
Hey, PSA to everyone. Let's keep those cats indoors.
Let's keep those cats indoors. They're supposed to be there. If they were meant to be wild, then the orange cats would have more than one brain cell. Let me say something. Now, this is in PA.
Yes.
I've never seen one.
How have you never seen
I
them?
think it's they're in they're in this part. I think it's the eastern. It's like they're west, like they're from where you're from, Alabama.
They're not from Alabama, I can assure you that. They live here in the Allegheny Plateau. I can give a money-back guarantee on
That's
that.
crazy.
You just know around enough fences, man. You gotta go start fencing.
I haven't seen cows or fences.
Well,
fence sitting.
This
It's
one
like what you do in the 1920s.
The one I picked actually sounds like it's from Pennsylvania. That's the northern cool skink.
Oh, I love
obviously.
skinks.
Gotta love a good skink. This one is a candidate species though, so this one's a little bit endangered.
Got my vote.
Joe Biden.
Not that kind of candidate. Not that kind of candidate
that's a
species.
shame.
John
For
Fetterman.
conservation concern, let's clarify
Al
that.
Gore.
They are threatened by a lot of habitat loss, fragmentation, all that bad stuff.
you get with
Interesting fact
politicians.
though, the first specimen that was collected was found in Cumberland County, in PA.
That's my home.
How about that?
That's my home right there.
Alabama. All right.
Big facts.
Yeah, there's like 3 skinks in the App Plateau. I'm gonna be honest, I misread it and got a little more excited about what we were talking about. But I had the common 5-line skink. It's hard to pick. You got like 3 things. It's like, oh, do you like pancakes, waffles, or French toast? And like, I'm not a big fan of French toast, but you guys took pancake.
Bro,
waffle.
French toast
Wait, hold
is
up
the
a second.
best.
Yeah, dude, French toast way better than pancakes.
Banana Foster. I'm a
tier.
Banana Foster type of guy. But
Oh,
we're bringing different
yeah.
variables into it, and I can
All right.
barely pass calc. So the common 5-line skink, it likes it moist and luscious. We're talking about Herps. That's going to be all of them. Now, the craziest thing about this thing, though, is that I do believe in the terms of Catholicism that it would probably not make it to heaven. Because what it eats all your common invertebrates and little things, stuff like that. But it will eat newborn mice. We're not talking like, snakes will eat eggs, which, who hasn't ate an egg once in a while. But, like, I can't think of the last time I ate a newborn mice. And I know Fridays during Lent, I can't eat anything like that. So it's crazy that this thing would go out of its way to just wait for the mice to be born, because it has to be a seasonal thing, right? They're mammals. But in fact, it's weird because while they have all this crazy stuff they eat and you think they're doing good, they're least concerned, their habitat's still like a problem. Like we gotta, the habitat's a problem with all these species. And that's the craziest thing doing this research for this podcast. Like, just save the habitat, people. It's not that hard.
Talking about things that ain't making it to the pearly gates, I gotta go with the common snapping turtle.
Oh,
There-
Nobody
nobody
say that, Caleb.
What?
Why do you say that, Caleb?
What do I say? It's a freshwater tank that eats everything. They don't discriminate. They'll eat live fish. They'll eat smaller versions of themselves. They'll eat baby snapping turtles. Talking about baby mice, they're cannibals. They'll eat anything. They'll eat eggs. They'll even eat small children if they could. There's been documented cases down south of common snapping turtles eating people.
And now, how would you know about down south, Caleb?
But yeah, another thing that I love about common snapping turtles is when they get to about 10 pounds and above, they're basically unkillable from anything except for humans here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I hate people actually eat them. I've never tried it, but I've seen them a couple TikToks.
They're not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Speaking of not bad, the red-eared slider.
Whoa, hang on, buddy.
You're in the wrong part. I think you're talking about the red-bellied cooter, maybe, but the red-eared slider is not a good
Oh,
one.
I'm reading my notes wrong here. It looks like the red-bellied cooter is actually a little bit endangered because of the red-eared slider. unfortunately.
Amateur hour doesn't get Celsius. Can't
Sorry
do
for that
right.
mistake, folks. I hope you didn't stop listening right then. You know, you might walk away with a little bit of misinformation.
We used to be a podcast.
We used to be.
But sir, I think we're losing a member after today. Ready or slide or bring that slander here.
Well, let's hear yours,
Unacceptable.
Eli.
You see, when I think of turtles, and this is gonna take me back to childhood, I'm gonna go a little tangent.
We're going
here.
back.
Going back
folks.
17 years. We're just gonna talk about the box turtle because one thing is it's vulnerable, and if you've ever seen it, it's pretty gosh darn cute when you talk about box turtles. So not only they're vulnerable, the craziest thing is that they actually get eaten by farm animals, which means we could be eating box turtles through the food chain.
Whoa.
So we have the sins to bear on our shoulders, our own crown of thorns, if you will, our crowns of box turtles. Those things right there. The other interesting thing about the box turtles, though, is that they actually have a hinge on their plastron. For those of you who don't know, that's part of the shell. They can actually fully close it, which is crazy because if for a vulnerable species, it seems like an adaptation that would lead to better success in the wild, you know? And also, funny story, I have an older brother, probably about 6 years. Yeah, 6 years. And he took one home when I was in middle school before I knew that was like a federal felony to do, and it died. So, fairness, I'll see you when I see you. I know you're up there.
Your brother should be in prison.
He moved to Ohio, so good luck getting
That's basically the same.
He's got the train water to deal with, so I'm sure he's good enough.
Don't bring box turtles home, folks.
Don't bring box turtles home. Leave them be.
But we're gonna keep a note of that train derailment in Ohio.
Give them a good pond.
So talking about ponds,
Yeah.
we got the American bullfrog up next. One of my favorite anurans here in the state. They're ambush predators. They're more adapted for sit and wait tactics. They like marshes, bogs, any real wetland area. They'll even stay in rivers. I know for me, the Susquehanna and out here the Allegheny, they have been found in. They're very adapted species for sitting in water and waiting for prey. And I just think it's a great adaptation for any species to be a sit and wait predator. Less energy you have to use to get your prey, the better.
It's only hurt by beaten.
That's pretty cool stuff. Now, how do you guys feel about tree frogs, though? Tree frogs are pretty great. I personally like the mountain chorus frog.
Mm-hmm.
These guys live up above like 3,500 feet, which is pretty impressive. They find little shallow ponds up there that high, and they chill out in there. Unfortunately, like a lot of other species we talk about on this podcast, even though this is our first episode,
We talk about.
We talk
Yeah.
about
We
it.
talk about.
they're threatened because of habitat loss, degradation, acidification of waters, bad stuff for herps, obviously.
Certainly is there, Jesse. So we're talking about our favorite anurans. You know, we had some good ones here with a bullfrog, which more of a frog than a bull, and the mountain chorus frog, which I'm sure sounds really good.
Definitely more of a frog than a mountain.
More of a frog than a mountain.
I would
for sure.
imagine.
Yeah. Good chorus though. I mean, probably
Yeah.
probably better than my fifth grade
Yes, I
performance.
probably
for sure,
shame.
for sure.
Yeah. You know, I got a soft spot for the spring peeper, you know, the Pseudocris crucifer, you know,
Ooh.
as the Catholic resident on the podcast. But, you know, when I moved out to my childhood home, there were just hundreds of these back in the pond, and it's almost like white noise. But just think about it. If they were, like, dangerous, it'd be a little concerning.
Yeah.
You gotta be thankful, like, spring peepers don't do anything. You know, they just sit near the water or, like, moist forests.
They're just
Chilling,
chilling,
they say.
yeah.
They're just chilling, and the thing is like somehow habitat alteration. Though they're like generalists, and like a lot of generalists even from habitat alteration through all the herps in this area. It's wild. And one of the main threats to the spring peeper, what's interesting, is there's a type of fungus that's leading to concerns, especially with global warming, with fungus spreading, being hotter. You know, we're gonna have The Last of Us with frogs here soon, and I'm just thinking that would be something interesting to see by the time I'm gone. You know,
Maybe they'll make a Netflix series about it.
I'm more of a Hulu man myself.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Got that student discount. But we're talking about hell on earth over here with fungus spores. But what about the hellbender? The eastern hellbender is the largest salamander species in the United States at 2 foot long. That's a big salamander.
That is a massive salamander.
That's like $24 at Subway.
No more $5 foot longs, folks.
Never.
But they're a vulnerable species, unfortunately, and it has to do with human impacts.
Mhm.
Now, the threats we give to them is creating dams. It sections off their waterways. They can't move throughout. Another thing we have is pollution, whether it be acid mine drainage, whether it be factories. Even in my watershed in Susquehanna, we have Harrisburg dumping sewage water into the river.
Mhm.
So it's unsuitable for them. But to me, I really like the eastern hellbender, not only because of their size, but because of their prey. They're big enough that they can eat most fish species. Bluegill, they'll eat small bass, they'll eat game fish that most of us wouldn't even think about. like I said, to me it befits their name of hellbender. If you give them enough size and space, they could wreak havoc on fish populations. But they always are kept in control by other predators. You got snakes to feed on them, birds, even larger fish, and of course the snapping turtle, which I mentioned earlier.
And the Rosebud Coal Company. Don't think I forgot about you, Rosebud.
They're still
What are you
out there.
doing out here?
Yeah, and Oneida. Why do you keep the road open to your minds?
Yeah,
We're just
Oneida.
trying to do science and
What's
we
up
can't
with
get
that,
in.
guys?
We
Yeah.
can't get in to do our science. You have one way to get in. It's not even a road. It's like a way to test the shocks on your truck, and then you lock every other way out, and you're on Google Maps. It doesn't seem like a way to do it.
No.
It doesn't seem like a way to do it. We're gonna get Brady Blackburn on here, and we're gonna wreak hell
Yes.
on you.
You've been warned.
You've been warned.
You're gonna get put on blast. But while we're talking about call dates, guys, I do love myself a good mole salamander, and the Jefferson salamander might be my favorite one of those. See, these guys like to live in those deep, deciduous forests, and they're actually named after Jefferson College, right here in Pennsylvania, Washington County, not too far away from where we are now.
They should have named them the Indiana University of Pennsylvania salamander.
Would have been a lot
ring to it.
Would have been a lot cooler if
Yes,
it was. Would've
yes.
been a lot
Don't
cooler.
see them doing a podcast about in Washington Jefferson about this.
Exactly.
Go
And
Hawks.
they're like a D3 school. Like they probably have if they weren't waiting on a science building, probably.
Brought to us by Celsius.
Not that I would know.
Yeah. Once again, the podcast brought to you by Celsius.
Speaking of Celsius, we're scientists, so let's talk about a local scientist right after my own heart. We're going to talk about the Whirly salamander.
Ooh,
we're
yeah.
going to go hometown.
Who doesn't
on
love
this
the
here.
Whirly
Who
salamander?
doesn't love the Whirly salamander? I bet one of the first things we saw, one of the only people that got to see him out in the woods when we went and see him.
Yeah.
So the Whirly salamander, you're going to find them in mature forests, and they tend to stay around a lot of rock piles. Like, I think when we went to see him, we were just flipping rocks like it was a Mario Kart mini game,
Right,
and then we'd
yes.
see one, and it would dart down, and we'd go, man,
Very elusive.
very elusive.
Very fast critter.
Very elusive. So the weird thing is, it's not like they're the mountain chorus log, 3,500 feet or what you said. They sit above 183 meters specifically, which is a very specific number. We like that as scientists. And for any of those that aren't in the European Union, that's about 600 feet above sea level. It's not that high. It's about what you expect kind of in the Allegheny Plateau. I think we sit around 1,000 in most areas, kind of the average. One of the main threats is deforestation, which is interesting because where we found them nearby, we had an issue in an area called White's Woods with them trying to timber it down. So it's interesting if there's any whirlies there and if they would have been impacted if that had happened. The one thing I have to say about the Whirly salamander is that the one building they have the guy's name on, the guy that found it, Mr. Whirly, Dr. Whirly, if you will, is they turned it into a bar that they let you smoke in, and it's incredibly packed. And it's just such a bad vibe. I just don't want to go into it.
It's straight
I
up
can't name
not
it.
a good time.
I can't name it. I won't name it. But the thing is, I did see someone pull a taser out in front of it before, and it wasn't a good time.
Just know they just brought slander to the name Whirly. That's all you need to know.
That's all you
about
need
this
to know.
place. But I think that's all the time we all have for you today.
That's all the time we have for the free ones. If you want to hear about the rest of every single herp in the Appalachian Plateau, you go to our Patreon, the Huddle Patreon. And we also have a Newgrounds page as well.
This has been Hawk Huddle, guys.
We'll
Thanks
see
for
you-
joining us.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
See you next time. We interview students in the Oak Grove asking their opinion on whether they believe hot dogs should be $1 at Cheats again.